In 2020, the company showed off one of its chips working in a pig named Gertrude during a live demo. The demonstration was proof of concept, and showed how the chip was able to accurately predict the positioning of Gertrude's limbs when she was walking on a treadmill, as well as recording neural activity when the pig snuffled about for food. Musk said the pig had been living with the chip embedded in her skull for 2 months. In terms of their technology, 1024 channels is not that impressive these days, but the electronics to relay them wirelessly is state-of-the-art, and the robotic implantation is nice, said Professor Andrew Jackson, an expert in neural interfaces at Newcastle University. This is solid engineering but mediocre neuroscience, he said. Jackson told Insider following the 2020 presentation that the wireless relay from the Neuralink chip could, potentially, have a big impact on the welfare of animal test subjects in science, as most neural interfaces currently in use on test animals, involving wires poking out through the skin. The company went a step further with its animal demonstrations in April 2021, when it showed off a monkey playing video games with its mind. Pager played the games using a joystick that was disconnected from the game's console, meaning he was controlling the cursor using his brain signals as his arm moved. Musk likes to boast Neuralink can let monkeys control computers with their brain signals, but neuroscientists don't see this as a big deal. Elon Musk excitedly announced back in 2019 presentation that the company had successfully implanted its chip into a monkey. A monkey has been able to control a computer with its brain, just FYI, he said, which appeared to take Neuralink president Max Hodak by surprise. Musk reiterated the claim in February 2021, 2 months ahead of the video demonstration. Neuroscientists speaking to Insider in 2019 said that while the claim might grab the attention of readers, they did not find it surprising or even particularly impressive. The monkey is not surfing the internet. The monkey is probably moving a cursor to move a little ball to try to match a target, said Professor Andrew Hyers, an assistant professor of neurobiology at the University of California, said in 2019. Implanting primates with neural brain interfaces that let them control objects on screens has been done before. Professor Andrew Jackson of the University of Newcastle told Insider in April 2021, researchers first pioneered this kind of tech in 2002. But arguably its origins go all the way back to the 1960s. Improved neural interface technology like Neuralinks could help better study and treat severe neurological conditions such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Professor Andrew Hyers told Insider another application could be allowing people to control robotic prostheses with their minds. The first application you can imagine is better mental control for a robotic arm for someone who's paralyzed, Hyers said in a 2019 interview with Insider, saying that the electrodes in a patient's brain could potentially reproduce the sensation of touch, allowing the patient to exert finer motor control over a prosthetic limb. The company hinted its chip's first real-world application would be giving quadriplegic people the ability to control phones and laptops. Neuralink announced it had raised a $205 million Series C funding round from investors including Google's GV on July 29, 2021. As part of its announcement, the company said its chip's first commercial application could be to help quadriplegic people. Quadriplegia is partial or full paralysis in all 4 limbs. The first indication this device is intended for is to help quadriplegics regain their digital freedom, by allowing users to interact with their computers or phones in a high bandwidth and naturalistic way. The funds from the round will be used to take Neuralink's first product to market, and accelerate the research and development of future products, Neuralink said in a blog post. During the Wall Street Journal CEO Council Summit in December 2021, Musk said the first humans into whom Neuralink hopes to implant its devices are people who have severe spinal cord injuries like tetraplegics, quadriplegics. Tetraplegia is another term for quadriplegia. Elon Musk also says in the long term the chip could be used to meld human consciousness with artificial intelligence, though experts are skeptical of this. Although Musk has touted the near-term applications of Neuralink, he often links the company up with his fears about artificial intelligence. Musk has said that he thinks humanity will be able to achieve symbiosis with artificial intelligence using technology developed by Neuralink. Musk told artificial intelligence podcast host Lex Fridman in 2019 that Neuralink was intended to address the existential risk associated with digital superintelligence. We will not be able to be smarter than a digital supercomputer, So, therefore, if you cannot beat 'em, join 'em, Musk added. Musk has made lots of fanciful claims about the enhanced abilities Neuralink could confer. In 2020, Musk said people would save and replay memories like in Black Mirror, or telepathically summon their car. Experts have expressed doubts about these claims. So what are your thoughts? Will the daring businessman pull this one off? Let me know down in the comments and stay tuned for all the latest artificial news. WebGPT can use web search queries to collect supporting references for its response, and on Reddit questions its answers were preferred by human judges, over the highest voted answer 69% of the time. The announcement was made on the OpenAI blog. WebGPT is a version of OpenAI's pre-trained GPT-3 natural language processing model that has been fine-tuned to use a web browser to perform search engine queries, follow links, and quote sources. The model is trained on a dataset collected from the Explain Like I'm 5 subreddit using a combination of supervised learning and reinforcement learning, incorporating human feedback, and can generate paragraph-length answers to open-ended questions on a wide range of topics. According to OpenAI, human feedback and tools such as web browsers offer a promising path towards robustly truthful, general-purpose AI systems. Our current system struggles with challenging or unfamiliar circumstances, but still represents significant progress in this direction. In 2019, with the task of creating smarter digital assistants, a team of researchers from Facebook and Google proposed a long-form question-answering task, which requires an AI to produce richer answers to more complex, open-ended questions. OpenAI's GPT-3 model proved to be very good when evaluated on QA benchmarks, scoring up to 71.2% on the Trivia QA benchmark, with no fine-tuning. Although, like many language models, GPT-3 often hallucinates. That is, it generates answers that seem reasonable but are factually incorrect. To address this problem, many researchers have augmented deep learning QA models with an information retrieval mechanism, which can query a knowledge base to provide additional context to the model's decoder mechanism that generates responses. OpenAI used a similar approach, but instead of including information retrieval in the model, they programmed their model to interact directly with a web search engine, a task that humans can do well and that a language model can mimic. The team first developed a web browsing environment which can be controlled via text commands produced by a pre-trained GPT-3 model. The model is then operated as a RL agent, given the environment which consists of a question and the web browser's current page. The agent generates a command, such as issuing a search query, following a link, extracting context from a page, or generating a final result. This agent is fine-tuned using a combination of supervised learning on human-generated examples and RL using a reward model. The team evaluated WebGPT on both the Eli-5 dataset as well as Trivia QA. For the Eli-5 evaluation, OpenAI collected the most voted answer from Reddit and also had human demonstrators generate answers, using the same web browsing environment as the model. The researchers hired contractors to compare WebGPT's answers to these human-created answers, with WebGPT's answers being preferred over the Reddit answer 69% of the time, and over the demonstrator's answers 56% of the time. On the Trivia QA benchmark, WebGPT outperformed GPT-3, producing answers that were true 75% of the time, and both true and informative 54% of the time. InfoQ has previously covered other efforts to improve AI language model performance using external knowledge bases, including Baidu's ERNIE 3.0, which is trained on a knowledge graph, and Facebook's BlenderBot 2.0 chatbot, which can use internet searches for supplemental conversational context. More recently, DeepMind developed retrieval-enhanced transformers, a method to augment a pre-trained transformer model by incorporating information retrieval into the model's attention mechanism. A research team from Baidu published a paper on the 3.0 version of enhanced language representation with informative entities, a natural language processing deep learning model. The model contains 10B parameters and achieved a new state-of-the-art score on the superglue benchmark, outperforming the human baseline score. The model and several experiments were described in a post on Baidu's blog. Unlike most other deep learning NLP models that are used only on unstructured text, ERNIE's training data includes structured knowledge graph data, which helps the model output more coherent responses. The model consists of a transformer XL backbone to encode the input to a latent representation, along with two separate decoder networks, one for natural language understanding, and another for natural language generation. In addition to setting a new top score on Superglue, displacing Microsoft and Google, ERNIE also set new state-of-the-art scores on 54 Chinese language NLP tasks. Although large deep learning models trained only on text, such as OpenAI's GPT-3 or Google's T5, they also perform well on a wide variety of problems. Researchers have found these models often struggle with some NLU tasks that require world knowledge not present in the input text. So guys, I hope that gives you a good insight to what the team at OpenAI are working on. If you would like to find out more, I will leave a link in the description of the team's website, where you can sign up to be one of the first to experiment with this groundbreaking technology. If you enjoyed the video, then remember to hit subscribe to stay up to date with all the artificial news. Have a smashing day. Research Lab OpenAI's top scientist has made a controversial claim, one that could drastically change the artificial intelligence market, and already has other scientists up in arms over this crazy concept. The largest neural networks may already be developing consciousness, many experts have already warned. OpenAI was founded in December 2015. Elon Musk, along with Sutskever, was one of the original founders and participated in the company's early days, out of his concern for the potential threat AI poses to humanity. According to Analytics Insight, Musk has warned that we need to be super careful with AI as they are potentially more dangerous than nukes. One of the founding goals of OpenAI was to develop artificial intelligence in a responsible manner, with the appropriate controls in place to ensure the technology doesn't get out of hand and become a threat. Since its founding, the organization has become one of the leaders in the industry, making Sutskever's statement all the more worrisome. Most experts believe machine consciousness is still some time off despite recent advances in AI development. As a result, it's unclear whether Sutskever's statement is meant to be taken literally or facetiously, or whether it was merely a prediction about what the future may hold. Of course, the other possibility is that Sutskever's role as the top scientist at one of the leading AI firms gives him an insight that few others have. If he really was being literal in his estimation, it is truly an ominous one. The fact that many experts believe AI consciousness is a ways off, is also an indication the industry still lacks the necessary safeguards to prevent Musk's fears from coming true. As there are many hypothesized types of consciousness, there are many potential implementations of artificial consciousness. In the philosophical literature, perhaps the most common taxonomy of consciousness is into access and phenomenal variance. Access consciousness concerns those aspects of experience that can be apprehended, while phenomenal consciousness concerns those aspects of experience that seemingly cannot be apprehended, instead being characterized qualitatively in terms. We have already seen signs of artificial conciseness with OpenAI's GPT-3. GPT-3, Generative Pre-trained Transformer 3, is a language model by OpenAI, an artificial intelligence research laboratory in San Francisco. It is the third version release and the upgraded version of GPT-2. Version 3 takes the GPT model to a whole new level as it's trained on a whopping 175 billion parameters, which is over 10x the size of its predecessor, GPT-2. The 175 billion parameter deep learning model is capable of producing human-like text, and was trained on large text datasets with hundreds of billions of words. This language model was created to be more robust than GPT-2, in that it is capable of handling more niche topics. GPT-2 was known to have poor performance when given tasks in specialized areas, such as music and storytelling. GPT-3 can now go further with tasks such as answering questions, writing essays, text summarization, language translation, and generating computer code. OpenAI is a pioneer in artificial intelligence research that was initially funded by titans like SpaceX and Tesla founder Elon Musk, venture capitalist Peter Thiel, and LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. The nonprofit's mission is to guide artificial intelligence development responsibly, away from abusive and harmful applications. Besides text generation, OpenAI has also developed a robotic hand that can teach itself simple tasks, systems that can beat pro players of the strategy video game Dota 2, and algorithms that can incorporate human input into their learning processes. GPT-3 is one of the best language models that are basically deep learning models, capable of producing a sequence of text given an input sequence. These language models are designed for text generation tasks such as question answering, text summarization, and machine translation. Language models work uniquely in contrast to LSTMs by utilizing different units called consideration blocks to realize which parts of a text arrangement are critical to focus on. GPT-3 is the third generation of the GPT language models made by OpenAI. The primary contrast that separates GPT-3 from past models is its size. GPT-3 contains 175 billion boundaries, making it multiple times as extensive as GPT-2, and multiple times as Microsoft's Turing NLG model. GPT-3 has 96 consideration blocks that each contain 96 consideration heads. At the end of the day, GPT-3 is essentially a monster transformer model. Presently, GPT-3 is not open source, and OpenAI chose to rather create the model accessible through a business API that you can see here. This API is in private beta, and that implies that you should finish up the OpenAI API waitlist form to join the shortlist to utilize the API. OpenAI additionally has an exceptional program for Scholastic analysts who need to utilize GPT-3. To utilize GPT-3 for Scholastic exploration, you should finish up the Academic Access application. Currently, the industry possesses the tools to create AI systems that display remarkable levels of understanding. Some existing programs show much resemblance to human-level reasoning, performance, and control on specific tasks. Integrating AGI into advanced text systems will enable them to combine human-like flexibility and reasoning with computational advantages, such as near-instant recall and split-second number crunching. Furthermore, using this intelligence to control robots that are at least as dexterous and mobile as a person would result in a new breed of machines that can perform any task. Over time, these intelligence would be able to take over almost every role performed by humans. Certain experts believe that such rapid advancements in AGI could have two extreme conditions. Either it could make humans cheaper than machines, or enable them to become more efficient with such advanced AI systems alongside them. But it is for sure that the advent of such systems could make human labor obsolete. Artificial general intelligence also aids in several real-world industrial use cases. Scientists from large tech organizations are contributing to tackling climate change, while developing what is required to build AGI for weather prediction, and plasma control for fusion, which is a single source of clean and sustainable energy. Also, these models can help meteorologists provide forecast and aid decision-making for emergency services, energy management, and activation of flood warning systems, enabling better preparation and responses for extreme weather conditions. AGI systems can make more intelligent systems for advanced decision-making. While AGI may not have been realized so far, it does promise a world full of possibilities. But currently, the technology is facing several roadblocks. Besides responding to the effects of climate change, it is also crucial to sort out the resources from which these data are generated by scientists and researchers. The lack of a working protocol with such advanced artificial intelligence or machine learning networking is critical. This deficiency coerces systems to work as standalone models in a closed environment. Also, the communication gaps come in the way of seamless data sharing and the interlearning of machine learning models. Organizational executives are now in the dark to integrate AI with their business operations to drive specific results. The lack of direction, followed by the fact that only a limited number of people possessing the required skills to handle AGI machines, makes the deployment of such systems quite costly. This week has been one to forget for SpaceX, Elon Musk's aerospace technology company. On February 3, the company successfully launched 49 Starlink internet satellites into orbit, but up to 40 of them will be lost because of a geomagnetic storm that occurred just one day later. Satellite internet service is nothing new, but it suffers from significant flaws, including limited speeds, high latency, and in many areas, prohibitive costs. Starlink, publicly announced in 2015, aims to offer significantly better performance, Not quite as good as cable and fiber, but close enough to be competitive. Not everyone is a fan. Some astronomers, for instance, worry about the impact of a multitude of bright satellites in the sky on their work, but in terms of bringing effective broadband to all corners of the globe, the system at the very least shows great potential. Unfortunately, as detailed by Space.com, the most recent satellite deployment was a major bust. The launch went off without a hitch, but the geomagnetic storm, a major disturbance of Earth's magnetosphere caused by sustained periods of high solar winds, on February 4 wreaked havoc on them. SpaceX explained in an update that the storm caused dramatically increased atmospheric drag on the satellites, threatening their orbit and leading the Starlink team to put them into a safe mode, in which they would fly edge on through the storm, like the wing of a plane. But once the satellites were put into safe mode, they could not be brought back to normal operation. Preliminary analysis show the increased drag at the low altitudes prevented the satellites from leaving safe mode to begin orbit-raising maneuvers, and up to 40 of the satellites will re-enter or already have re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, SpaceX said in the update. This sort of thing is exceedingly rare. In fact, Space.com editor-in-chief Tariq Malik told PC Gamer in an email that he couldn't recall another recent example of a brand new, successfully deployed satellite being brought down by a geomagnetic storm. But Space's launch strategy contributed to the conditions that made the event possible. The company chooses an intentionally low orbit so that if any of the satellites are malfunctioning, they can be commanded to deorbit themselves on purpose for disposal, Malik explained. The lowest point of that orbit is only 130 miles. Once all the satellites checked out, SpaceX would have commanded them to fire thrusters to raise their orbit to about 341 miles. SpaceX's intentionally low orbit for initial satellite deployment, which is designed to be a safety measure to avoid cluttering up Earth orbit if a batch of Starlinks fail, left it vulnerable to the effects of increased atmospheric drag from the geomagnetic storm. 550 kilometers is still a very low orbit. Conventional communications satellites carrying television and radio signals typically orbit at altitudes exceeding 35,000 kilometers. But the relatively short transit distance is a big part of how Starlink is able to achieve its relatively low latency, which is vital for anyone using the service to play online games. Malik said it's currently not known whether SpaceX was aware of conditions that could result in a storm of this sort, or if it was a complete surprise event, but added that SpaceX will likely pay extremely close attention to the local space weather environment around Earth before launching another multi-million-dollar Starlink mission to avoid this scenario in the future. The fate of the 9 satellites that appeared to survive the storm isn't clear either, but the good news for SpaceX is that while this is no doubt a costly loss, it's also a relative drop in the bucket. As of January 18, SpaceX has launched more than 2,000 Starlink satellites, and the current plan is to have as many as 42,000 in orbit. So what's your thoughts, guys? Will the SpaceX team pull this off? Let me know down in the comments and stay tuned for all the latest artificial news.